Coach, how we doing?
All right, how you doing today?
I can't complain. Can't complain. Um, we've been talking to you for a lot of years now about different groups of corners you've had, and I know you've had groups that were younger, groups that were older, and I know you're always pushing your guys. But it occurs to me that it feels like at least kind of at the top end of that depth chart with guys that have proven it with the way they've played over a period of time. This may be kind of as settled of a top end of the rotation as you've had. What do you need? I guess kind of a two-part question. What do you need from Reese, Jalen, and Taiwan to sort of take that next step? And who do you see maybe being the guys that you're challenging to push them, to kind of come up that depth chart and provide depth and maybe kind of give those guys a little bit of trouble?
Well, during this time it's so crazy because, one test, somebody's out. And so like any other year, maybe a little different from any other year, you got to prepare for so many other different guys to maybe come in and play. And so it's a little bit different. Those older guys who have started several games, they understand, the complexities of going out and preparing every week. You just got to make sure they sharpen it up, make sure they don't get complacent, and make sure that they're living right outside of the complex to make sure that these next 8 to 9 weeks, we can go and we're healthy and we can make it the whole season. When you talk about those young guys, they just got to understand the importance of the little things. And I think that at the end of the day, that's kind of what we're kind of harping on. I mean, you think about the mental gymnastics these guys had to go through from we're playing to not playing to not playing again. Emotionally, they had to kind of get their minds right. And so for the young guys, that's now preparing those guys to know the playbook in and out. We got to kind of, maybe dumbify the playbook a little bit so they can understand it and get those guys in terms where they go out there and play fast. And so that's what I need those young guys to kind of do right now is understand the terms. What are some of the key concepts that we need to work on to make sure that now the mental gymnastics is out and they can go play fast on Saturday. So they're doing a good job to push them. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the one carrot that is dangling out there is you could mess around and maybe, hopefully this doesn't happen, but test positive and the next guy's got to be ready to go play. So that is, the biggest difference from, years past.
Matt Weaver and then Kevin Brockway.
Coach, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm okay, man. Wanted to ask you about some of the new guys. Coach Allen recently mentioned Lem and Chris Keys as, guys that have been impressive, but also, Larry Tracy and Josh Sanguinetti. I know he's kind of moved over to your guys' spot. Just what have you seen from those four guys? And obviously this year everybody's got to be on guard to help, but how close are they to maybe being game ready?
Well, I tell you what, one guy that is really just keeps doing a great job is Larry Tracy. He keeps making plays, and as a freshman, he was kind of scatterbrained a little bit, but you can understand he kind of locked in, got into college and started understanding kind of the flows of college, and he's locked into football. And I see a totally different change in him on and off the field, and I'm as excited for him in the process that he's doing to give himself an opportunity to go play. I know in that family, football is important. And I think now he's just kind of settling into who he is on and off the football field. And I'm really excited for the future for him. For those young guys, when you talk about Lim and Chris Keys, those guys they have the athletic ability. I mean, as true freshmen coming in, I wish I had those guys years ago because it would have made that transition a lot easier. But right now, the one thing that we got to get to those guys, when you talk about a guy like Chris Keys, who's from, Collins, Mississippi, is just the speed of things, the speed of life. The town he's from, things a little bit slower, and then you just get here and all of a sudden it's go, 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 go. And I think now he's kind of settle into the expectations that I have of him in that corner room and also as a football team. And then you got a guy named Liam who is just a great football player. He's really tough. And now we got to get the mental stuff together when it comes to all the checks. Because a lot of times in high school, if it's cover 2, you play cover 2. If it's cover 3, you play cover 3. We're here, based on people shift, motion, and move, those changes can occur. And so those are things that we have to kind of get those guys kind of ironed out. Athletically, they're some of the best freshmen that we had. So I'm excited, and I expected great things for those guys. And the great thing about it, it's a learning opportunity because they get the same year next year. So just think about how great we'll be next year with all these guys coming back, and it doesn't hurt the eligibility at all. So I'm really excited, for right now and the future.
Kevin,
thanks, Coach.
Hey, Coach, Taiwan obviously had a pretty fast rise up the depth chart last year and a lot of preseason accolades. What's your offseason been like with him in terms of critiquing him? And is there another kind of level to his game that you think he can get to?
Well, with him is he comes from an athletic family. He does a lot of great things, and he's had a lot of press clippings. And so for me, I got to coach him even harder. about the minute little things, where your feet, where your eyes, where your hand placement. And, every time he messes up, he might get 50-yard up downs where somebody else might, get 10. And so I'm a lot harder on him because at the end of the day, a lot of players, after having a successful freshman year, usually fall into a sophomore slump. And so we got to do a great job of making sure that he continues to do the things that allowed him to get to this position, watching film, being critical of every little thing, the details. And he's, he's from a coaching family. He takes great coaching, and he's been pushed from a little boy. And so now he's a young man. This is kind of second nature to him, and he loves football. So when you get that kind of you get that DNA, is awesome to coach. And so that's what we're trying to do with him. It's just the minute little things, push him, hold him to a different standard, and hopefully, God to keep blessing him, and he'll keep rising as he has thus far.
All right, John, then Dylan Wallace.
Jalen is a guy we're going to talk to today. Obviously, Taiwan gets a lot of talk, but in terms of Jalen, how much has he improved over this offseason, do you feel like? And
Really?
what ways do you think he's different?
Yeah. You know what? We had, after the football season, he and I got together, and we just went over some goals of what he wanted in life, when it comes to academics, when it comes to, one day getting done with football spiritually. And I've seen a change in him, just the way he has matured. And so now I see that on the football field. During that little break when they said we were off, his running, and when he came back, he was the most improved DB that we've had, as far as being in shape, being dominant in his runs, and it's every day. And now I'm starting to see that on the football field. So I think that he has definitely have a great opportunity this year to take the next step to be, maybe be a household name. And him and Reese are going to push one another. And I'm excited, to see his progress as he matures himself. And so I'm really loving where his game is. He comes to work. He takes coaching as well. He's in his playbook. And also, too, he's starting to encourage young guys. And so that is a thing that I think that when you take that next step of being, an upperclassman, is not only is he holding himself to a different standard, he's also holding young guys to the standard that has been started from the guys, Rashod Taylor, Mike Hunter, Tim Bennett, from those guys long ago. And now we're starting to see kind of what I saw back then kind of transform here. And I'm excited for what's about to happen.
All right, Dylan Wallace and Stefan.
Follow up on what you just said about Jalen kind of encouraging younger guys. He was a guy Tom Allen brought up yesterday to step up more of a leadership role, especially with Marcelino out. So just in terms of leadership, to expand on that, I mean, what have you seen him grow in that regard?
Well, I think ultimately, too, sometimes when you're in a leadership role, you can't always be somebody's buddy. You got to call them out when they're wrong. And the things that, the young people learn, our young players learn in the classroom, they had to mess around and they had to take from the classroom and do it on the football field. And when you have a guy in the back end who is holding you accountable to that, but also encouraging when you do make a mistake and not just hollering and yelling, and that's always a great thing to see too. And so, and then, you only have so many hours. I see those guys getting together, outside of here and watching film. You can see when they kind of log on and stuff like that as a group. And somebody's got to, hold the clicker. Somebody's got to control it. Somebody's got to be the coach, when I'm not there. And I'm starting to see that. I see those guys, when we had to come in and test every day, those guys sending out the text messages, letting them know what time the corners are here and holding each other responsible if somebody's not up or checking on people. So those are the things that you start to see outside of actually being on the football field. We see that leadership starting to kind of take place, and you're happy to see, that maturity with him.
Stefan, go ahead. Last one.
Coach, you'd mentioned earlier kind of the difficulty of, emotionally the start-stop of the last couple months, with the season. I mean, not just physically preparing your guys, but what have you kind of been telling your guys from that mental or emotional standpoint in terms of, handling these past few months of not knowing what the season's going to look like?
Well, I go back to these guys too, because ultimately, yes, we're coaches, but it's a life lesson. You don't know what tomorrow holds. And so at the end of the day, you prepare yourself to do the best you can be. And whatever happens tomorrow, let's adjust and go to it. So, I had to get my mind right. Here we are about to practice, and then we're off. Then 2 days later, we're rocking and rolling. And so they got to hold me accountable for making sure that my mind is right. And then I got to make sure that their mind is right. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, let's take day by day, right? And, if somebody happens to not be here, somebody else got to step up. And that's how it is, with this corner group. And I think that at the end of the day, because, if you look at my track record, I play a lot of young people if you're ready. And so those young people have an opportunity. They're excited that they know it's just not recruiting talk, that ultimately at the end of the day, I play young people if you're ready. And so I got to get those guys ready. And if they shut it down tomorrow, we'll adjust. If we got to play tomorrow, we'll adjust. We'll find a way to put the best people on the field and get those guys in the best plays to help them be successful. And all I got to need those guys to give 100%. If we mess up 100%, go 100%. And then we'll figure it out later.
All right, one more, Bishop. Kevin Brockway, go ahead, last one.
Yeah, Rashod Taylor's continued progression as a guy that, converted positions a couple of years ago. Just where do you see him as far as his technique is concerned, and where do you want to see him, possibly go this season?
Well, I think, once again, I've been very fortunate and blessed, with the group I have in there. Rashod Taylor, really, the sky's the limit. The main thing that we have to do this year that I think last year he kind of got some kind of little injuries here or there that kind of, I think, hampered him from taking that next step. He's 100%. He's ready to go. His mind is right. And I think that ultimately last year just kind of getting out of just getting some of the dust off of being a DB, I started to kind of see that. And now he knows he's a corner. There's no ifs and buts about it. And so we're starting to see him just at the end of the day, he was always a leader because he was a quarterback. So that vocal leadership, once again, that you see that at the end of the day, at times everybody's got to lead, and then sometimes people got to follow. And I think that ultimately everybody's not jockeying for, that lead spot. Sometimes Jalen's going to have to follow. Sometimes Taiwan's going to have to follow. And sometimes Reese's going to have to follow. And then on the same thing, at times those guys going to have to lead. And I think they respect one another to let somebody step into that role and fall back. You know what I'm saying? And so when it comes to Reese and his ability over the years to be a great quarterback, to lead men, to also, follow as a corner and lead when need to be. So on the field, I mean, he's progressing. I'm expecting big things from him. We got to keep him healthy. I want to see him go through these 8-9 games and be the player that he was born to be, and be strong and finish and see what we got at the end.